Hello everybody, this is Carla, and this time I'm back with a review for episode 3 of season 1 of Freeform's Shadowhunters. This episode is titled Dead Man's Party, and I have to say, I actually really like this episode. I mean, this show is what it is. You have to take it with a grain of salt and take the cheesy and the bad dialogue. You have to take it and embrace it, or else you will never like it. It's for certain kind of people who can overlook that kind of stuff. And that was kind of still in the back of my mind, but this time I didn't really have to struggle with it as much as I did with the first 2 episodes, which I liked too, but this one I really enjoyed it. And I think it's because this one had a lot more of what I actually like in the book series, which is, well, first of all, character interaction, which was great. We had a ton of that in this episode, and I thought it was really great, well done. And 2, it was little hints as to what's to come that maybe viewers who haven't read the books might not recognize, but I have read, I think, most of the books, or at least all the main books, not so much the short stories or anything, but I've read all the 6 main books, so I know what's coming up, and I find it really interesting when they start dropping hints really early, so I like that. It wasn't, there's still this usual hang-ups with this kind of, with this episode in this show. Yes, there were some things that I didn't like, and some things I found really cheesy, some things that I found looked really cheap, but for the most part, just the interaction between the characters and the little hints as to what's to come, that kind of just weighed more in the end to me. I just really liked this episode. I already watched it twice before I even bothered to review it, because I really wanted to watch it again in case I missed something. I just really enjoyed watching it. I don't know. Now, some of the things, going a little bit into the details, some of the things I didn't like was, okay, in a few scenes, the ADR, the recording actors re-recording their dialogue because the sound didn't carry well when they were filming the scene or whatever, so sometimes actors record the dialogue after so they can overlay it on the scene and they can actually be heard. Well, sometimes that was a little bit too obvious. A little bit. No, actually, a lot. In some scenes it was just like, yeah, okay, it's really kind of obvious that you recorded this, and it takes you out of the scene immediately, so I don't like that. It happened especially in the scene where Isabella and Alec were facing off against vampires. Yeah, that was really, really obvious, but there were a few more. So I wish they would do a better job of blending the ADR better with the scene, because it took me out right away. Another thing that really took me out was the vampire makeup. Man, that was bad. That was so bad. He looks, Camille not so much, but Raphael looked like a clown. Let's face it. And it kind of sucks because I really liked both Camille and Raphael. I really liked it. I think the actors are pretty cool. Of course they have to ham it up because they're vampires, and it's, they have to try and be like, oh, we're the bad guys and stuff. But I really liked the way they pulled it off. I really liked the 2 of them, and I look forward to seeing them again in scenes. But just that makeup, man, that was so bad. Oh god, it was just, they can do better. Okay, this doesn't have to become Twilight. It was bad enough with Twilight. Please don't do that. Try to make it better next time. Speaking of things that looked crappy, the special effects in this episode, I know it's TV, and I shouldn't expect much from TV, but special effects just looked like crap, okay? The motorcycle, what was that? The motorcycle flying, and there were like streaks of light, and it looked so bad. Oh my god. And let's not even begin to talk about the fight scenes. Really, it just doesn't look good. They should have done something better with the lighting to, like, kind of hide it, I guess. I don't know, it just looked really bad. There was basically no choreography for this thing, no fight whatsoever. It still looked kind of clunky, which is kind of the feeling that I had the first episode when they were at Pandemonium. that the fight just felt clunky. I don't like that. If you're going to have a fight, make it awesome. I mean, these guys, these Shadowhunters, they have to be awesome. So if you have to spend money on one thing, fight choreography should be that thing, okay? I can give you a pass on Raphael's makeup, but make the fights awesome. I didn't like that one. I don't know if it's just me. I mean, I like Clary and Jace. I like them in the book. I like them in the movie. I like them here. I just find them really boring at the same time. It's like, okay, I get it that you have a thing and that we have to keep building up your romance. But at the same time, it's like, I don't really care. I was a lot more interested with all the other subplots that were happening. I mean, at one point I remember thinking when they went to that bar and Jace is like, yeah, go ahead, tell him how much you like his motorcycle and something. They like that. I was like, what are you, a pimp? That's weird. Don't do that. I mean, that whole... I like them together. I think they have chemistry, but at times it can just seem like, oh, we can't think of anything to have them do to, state all over again that they like each other. So we're just going to get them like random scenes that don't necessarily affect anything. Yeah, I know they had to steal the motorcycle, whatever. I'm glad they had the motorcycle in, because we didn't really see much of that in the movie. But I don't know, they could have done a better job. I mean, not just the motorcycle thing, but also when they were fighting, when he was teaching her how to use the sword. It was like, this could have been so much shorter, you didn't have to tell me every little detail. It went over a little bit too long, and I kind of got bored. I was so much more concerned with the Isabel subplot and the Simon subplot and the Alex subplot that I didn't really care. Again, nothing against them. I think Dom and Kat actually have good chemistry. I just think the scenes they give them are maybe a little bit too, like, they're pushing it a little bit. So yeah, I found that subplot boring. On the other hand, as I was saying, God, Simon, Isabel, and Alec, those three just make this show for me, okay? I know I've said it before, but they're so great. They're so great, they're so true to their characters, and I just love all three of them. I mean, Simon, when he was going on a rant about how he doesn't throw things, and he doesn't like to throw things, and how he was going to buy Raphael a new jacket and whatever, that is so Simon. I love that. And Alberto Rosenda is so great in this role. He just becomes Simon. He's so perfect. I love it, and just the entire thing with Simon was great. Even when he was under Camille's spell, it still felt like Simon. I mean, that's awesome. Isabel, I loved that scene when she was trying to get information out of Milliorn. And I love Emeraldtopia. I know a lot of people don't like her for some reason. I know a lot of people just feel that she overacts. I don't feel that way. I really feel that Izzy should be that, I don't know. She should be like that all the time. Like she has a way to her that's very coquettish, I guess, like flirty, and just she has to have that all the time because she's Isabel. And it's only going to make it better when we actually see the vulnerable side of her later on, hopefully. So I love her. I think Emerald is doing a great job with the character, ADR thing apart. She's doing a great job with it, and I like that she's kind of, she's always like, teasing and stuff. I love the banter she had with Alec, that she's telling him he's repressed and stuff. I love that because, I mean, if they're siblings, they shouldn't be like, oh, yay, I love you, brother. Not all the time, and not like, unless it's teasing, which they have done before, but I really like that she's, in her own way, she's trying to break him out of his shell, in a way, and he doesn't want to, he's very defensive about it, and I mean, it's understandable once you know where this is going. But I like that she's kind of being supportive of her and on her own way, and that will come out later, I'm sure. And just Alec, man, Alec was great. I like this whole thing about him feeling like he's in the shadow. I expect that we're going to see a bit more of that in the future, because I don't necessarily think it's all about him being Jace's shadow so much as him being in Clary's shadow, and that will come out, I'm sure. But I loved how he was arguing with Jace the whole time, how he wasn't afraid to tell him, hey, I think you're wrong, let's just stop and think of something else. And I loved his conversation with Hodge. I mean, again, Hodge, he's kind of hard to take in, because Hodge is not supposed to be hot, but I like this, I like their take on it, and I don't know, I just feel for Alec. I think he's so perfect. Matthew is so perfect. They're all so perfect for those roles. So I'm really happy, and those three just, I think that's probably the reason why I love this episode so much, is those three. Just Alberto, Emerald, and Matthew. They are doing a bang up job. Now, Dominic, I have to admit, he's getting a lot better. I mean, he was really, really off in the first episode, a little bit better in the second. He's getting really better now. Like, I actually believe him when he says things. I think they're painting Jace as maybe a little bit too nice. He was a little bit more, I don't know, he was a little bit more harsh, in the book, but he just seems to be like really into Clary really fast, which, yeah, he was interested, but he wasn't outwardly like so tender about it, I guess. But I don't necessarily mind either. I think Dom is doing a very good job so far. There are still things that, I mean, some of the lines they give him are just like, and because he's with Clary all the time, he also gets, he also gets the role of being the exposition master. He has to explain everything to her, which is not necessarily good for him, but I think Dom is getting better with the character and more comfortable in the role, and I like that. I like seeing that progression. Kat as Clary, however, still inconsistent, and it kind of baffles my mind, because she has some scenes where I just like cringe, but then she has some scenes where she's so good. It's like I can totally see Clary in her eyes, whereas in the other half of the time it's like, what are you saying? Those words that are coming out of your mouth and that expression just don't match. So I don't think it's Kat. I don't think she's a bad actress. I just think she isn't directed as she should be, and she's not given the best dialogue. So yeah, still inconsistent on that front, but I hope as we move forward she'll be getting better. I mean, Dom is already getting better. I can already see a progression, so hopefully it will happen with Kat too. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Speaking of dialogue though, there were some, I mean, you should expect bad dialogue from the show. It's kind of a given. But there were some lines that I just kind of rolled my eyes and laughed. I mean, some things, it's like, oh, that Jace one, it's like, oh, they sure know how to frame a narrative. I'm like, who speaks like that? Nobody speaks like that. Come on. It was so weird. And like Izzy, when she was with Miller, it's like, the only thing I have to do is you. I'm like, really? I mean, okay, she has to be flirty and coquettish and whatnot, but that's a little bit too crass. Come on, Isabella's not crass. So yeah, maybe they still need to work on the dialogue, and God, it hurts every time one of those lines comes out of their mouth, and I'm just like, oh, you could have done so much better. But it is what it is, though. Like I said, I like Camille. I really love that they actually brought her in even before we met her in the books. I don't know where they're going with it. They're like, are they like hinting at the idea that maybe Camille is going to be the one to turn Simon? Because I don't like that. I really liked the fact that X other vampire was the one who turned Simon in the end. I mean, come on, it was Raphael. I'm already saying that Simon's going to be turned, so spoilers, whatever. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of it being Camille. If it's just meant to be like that one first taste of vampire blood that kind of begins to draw Simon in, and then Raphael turns him like he did in the book, then that's fine by me. I don't terribly mind. I just wonder what the point was of making the change if it's not going to be Camille who turns him. So, yeah. I don't know. And I like that they gave little hints at Hodge's allegiance, in that conversation with Alec. That was very eye-opening. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm just gonna let you guys go. Not like this is against the rules or anything, just go, as long as you don't tell me what it is, just go, do whatever you need to do. Right, you're right, you're that permissive. So I like that, and I like that he's kind of planting seeds in Alex's mind about maybe breaking the bond between him and Jace, which I find it very interesting, as I already know what's going to happen to him. What was with the magical grave unsealing stele? That was strange. I mean, I have to say that one I like much better in the book because they actually use the stele like a key, but not like, I'm going to draw over this rune that's already here, and that's going to make it magically open. I'm like, no, that didn't work. And then that ending was weird, man. I mean, I guess they had to hint at the fact that Simon is, there's something different about Simon. I mean, he can see Clary's blood pulsing through her veins and stuff. That's very, very interesting in a way, but at the same time, I'm also wondering if it had something to do with Jace at the same time, because she was looking at Jace, right, and he was looking right back at her in one of those passionate, staring, like passionate glances between them that is very Twilight-ish. I didn't like that, but in the middle of that, there's Simon's thing, and I was just wondering if it had something to do with what Jace had explained before when he was teaching her how to fight, and he was like, yeah, it responds to you, and it's accepting you because you're a Shadowhunter and you can feel it pulsing in your veins. I'm like, okay, I'm good with Simon kind of being attracted to Clary's blood. I'm good with that. I don't want them to make this like, I can see from your neck that you're in love with him, because no, that doesn't work. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a weird ending. Again, the effects weren't the greatest, so maybe that didn't help. But I don't know. I guess I have to wait and see. But there are quite a few options they can take that I don't want them to take. So I'm just crossing my fingers that they don't screw up the Simon thing, because that was, for me, one of the best parts of the series, is just Simon's journey through, being a mundane to being a vampire, to being a daylighter, to being nothing, to being dead, to being, Shadowhunter eventually, hopefully. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I've been spoiling everybody so much. This is terrible. I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry. I hope nobody who hasn't read the books is listening to me right now. Anyway, I really hope they do it well. And I didn't like that hint necessarily that it's like, you can see Claire's feelings for Jace in her blood. No, please don't. But overall, I mean, again, I loved so much the interaction between the characters. Just all of it. Jason, Alec, Izzy and Alec. Just the whole Simon thing. I loved Camille and Raphael, and I hope to see them again eventually. And I thought, just that alone, the character interactions, and the start of the seeds of maybe plot in the future, made this episode so great for me. Much better than the first two, at least. I enjoyed it a lot, much more than I did the first two. And just because it wasn't just, let's go, let's do it, it's something we have to do. No. It was more about they took their time to actually have these characters talk to each other and talk about their feelings for each other and with each other, and I thought that was really great. So yeah, I really liked this episode. I didn't think it was going to before I watched it, because again, the whole vampire thing, it can go so bad so quickly after Twilight and everything, but it was actually okay. I mean, it did seem a little bit too easy, the way they saved Simon, but whatever. I'm not expecting a scene like in the movie, because the movie had a huge budget compared to a TV show. But I actually really liked it. I may be the only one in this, but I really like it. And if they keep just pushing the character interaction, the character development, and just the suspense of hints of things to come, that's what I loved about the books. So that's what I love about the movie. I don't really necessarily need, like, the vampires and the fights and the, Shadowhunter lore. I don't necessarily need that, as long as your characters are good. And if they focus on the characters, they can make this really good. There's a lot of potential here, again. And I think this episode was one of the ways they can show that, yes, they can actually live up to some of that potential. So despite all the stuff that I didn't like, which I have already ranted about in this recording, there are a lot of things that I really liked, and I hope they keep up with that as we go, and it doesn't necessarily become a story where you just have to get from point A to point B. Okay, it should be about the characters. That's what makes this series entertaining. So hopefully they will focus on that. And I will shut up now, because it's been 22 minutes since I started ranting about this episode. So yeah, as usual, if you guys want to visit our website, thegeekypub.com, you can find reviews for the previous Shadowhunters episodes, as well as reviews for other TV shows, books, movies, games. We have a ton of stuff in there. So visit and browse around. You'll find something you like, I'm sure of it. And also, if you guys want to be notified whenever we upload a new review, then you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link should be right below this frame somewhere. You subscribe, and that's because on YouTube is where the reviews go up first. Most of the time, even before they hit the website, they're on YouTube. So if you subscribe to our channel, then you will be notified straight away whenever we upload a new video. It's that easy. So that's it for me now. I will see you guys in my next review. Bye.